Hi, and welcome back to Friends, Loves, and Life. I'm David Begor. Today, I am talking with my husband, Derek Lenington. You may remember Derek. He was in my very first episode and feels kind of fitting because this is my final episode of this season. So it's kind of nice to have him as the bookend to the season. Derek has just launched his own business. He's a financial coach. And I thought it would be great to talk with him about taking Social Security because I am turning 62 soon. And I have been thinking about this and about what that means for me about retirement because I'm not really retiring. I'm not going to do that. I want to keep working. But what does that mean if I take Social Security? Are there penalties? And, is it better to take it at 67 or 70? And I just found the whole process to be kind of overwhelming. So I thought I would bring all of my questions to Derek here in front of all of you. Lucky you. So I know a lot of us find this confusing and we all wonder what we're supposed to do. Do we get in now? Do we wait? What's the deal? So we're going to talk with Derek about that. Here is my conversation with my husband, Derek. Hi, Derek.
Hi, David.
Welcome to my final episode of the first season. Kind of nice to have you be the bookend, don't you think?
Well,
I love that you're the bookend.
I am thrilled to be both the first and the last for this first season. That's great.
Yes.
How's it feel?
Actually, it feels pretty good. It's one of those things, how do I say this? It's one of those things that when you start something new, you're always very self-critical and always like looking for flaws and things like that. But
I know nothing of what you speak.
But I'm trying to take a really different approach to this. I still find my insecurities. I still see those and things like that. But I try really hard to just push through them and tell myself that that's just part of it. That's just part of it. Just keep going. What is it that I think it was Brene Brown who came up with that first time? What was it?
Shitty first draft?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
The first ones are always the hardest.
SFDs, yes.
Yes.
Or SFTs. First time.
And each one gets progressively easier and more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough during this first season, to be able to sit down with people I know to have conversations and to help me figure out what works and what doesn't, and allow me to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm getting a much clearer focus on where I want to go.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's great. And where is that?
Where is that? Okay, so I still want to have a very casual feel to the whole thing, sitting down with someone and getting to know them, or if I already know them, just having a casual conversation. Starting out, I think it's still really important, especially among queer people, to have coming out conversations, because I think that those are really important to put out there if someone's comfortable doing that, because other people are experiencing that same thing. And I think it's sharing our stories helps other people. And the other thing I want to do is then go into what someone brings to the community. What, for example, like you bring financial coaching to the community, or someone from the community center, like James, who brought knowledge and information about food insecurity and housing and programs that they offer within the community to help bring information to people who might not know how to get it otherwise. So that is my goal going forward. And I still want to have conversations that aren't so information oriented. I still do want to have mixed within there conversations, just conversations with people. Mm-hmm. Because we're all unique and we all have something to offer. And I want to showcase that.
That sounds cool. That sounds awesome, actually. I think is a direction to head.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here because you know that I'm hitting 62 and I'm about to decide whether or not I want to take my Social Security. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been a question that's been on my mind, well, for the last year as I hit that final day. That final day.
My goodness. Okay. Yeah.
On how I should move forward with this. Because I think a lot of people have these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I'm just going to put my questions out there because I'm very confused by how this works. One being, I'm confused about the timelines between like taking it at 62 versus 65 versus 67 versus 70.
Mm-hmm.
And also being married, what is that difference as a spousal benefit versus my benefit? And, when does Medicare come in? I just find it a little overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would approach it in talking with you as just anyone would want to approach it, because I'm sure a lot of people find this overwhelming, how they should do this.
Yeah, I think they do. And there's not sometimes much in the way of what feels like objective, neutral resource options to help answer those questions. And that's one of the things that I think, certainly as a financial planner and now as a coach, I'm hoping to help kind of fill in that gap that is, I think, definitely a need. So, yeah, and since I'm just a little bit older than you, I've already been there. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
my career has not been a usual career, like working. I mostly, through the last 40 years, have been a contractor, although I have had jobs where I've worked for other people. Most of that time has been spent as a contractor, so a lot of what I've paid in has not been, it hasn't been large amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm entering retirement on the lower end of receiving benefits. And so I guess my first question is it smart for me to retire or take my retirement benefit at 62?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is really where a lot of people enter this matrix, right? What do I do? And there are a few different components. So I can rattle off some things, and then you can say what you might want to hear more about, or what's maybe getting too much in the weeds for this type of conversation.
Okay.
But, excuse me, the basic structure is as you outlined. You can take Social Security as early as 62. For most people, well, I shouldn't, who knows whose age group people listening. For those born 1960 and older, retirement age is 67. That is considered your full retirement age, your FRA, and then you can delay benefits. You can delay them beyond 70, but there's no reason to in terms of increasing the benefit amount. The calculation stops at age 70. So those are usually the three moments people look at: 62, 67, which is full retirement age, or could be between 65 and 67, depending on your birth.
Mm-hmm.
And then 70 at the outset. And there is a built-in benefit of about 8% for each year one waits, but that incremental benefit is also calculated on a monthly basis. So you essentially get that, you get to make that decision each and every month between 62 and 70.
So I don't
And
have to retire like on my birthday at 62. I
Nope.
could retire at 63, 64, but the benefits would just be slightly higher in what I
That
would
is
get.
right. And for each month in between. Yeah.
Okay.
And also retire as a term is something also to take a moment to just call out that you can still work while you are collecting Social Security. But if you continue to have taxable income in addition to Social Security prior to your full retirement age, there is a penalty that is assessed to your benefit amount, meaning it can be reduced so that you are not getting the full amount that you otherwise would be entitled to at having started at a particular age. That penalty goes away at your full retirement age, and thereafter you can earn as much taxable income as you want, and there's no penalty.
And again, that's at 67. That's full retirement age.
For you, yes.
For me.
For me,
during
66 in 10 months. But keep going. Yep.
So during the time, so if I take retirement at 62 and I still work between 62 and 67, say I'm working 20 hours a week, is that still counted against my benefit? I mean, is there a cutoff in the amount of work you can do that's then not?
It's an annual income test. And I don't have the exact number in my head. I think it's around 24,000 is the amount that you can earn before there starts to be a deduction of the benefit you would receive. And you, for every $2 over that threshold, you receive $1 less of Social Security income. Now, it isn't gone forever. It comes back once you reach full retirement age, but it's not available to you within that period between 62 and your full retirement age, which for you is 67.
Wait a minute. What do you mean it comes back? So say, for example, I earn 35,000 and I get dinged. I'm just going to pick a number. I get dinged $1,000. I get that $1,000 back?
Yes. Once you hit full retirement age and you have your full benefit now, because there's no penalty, that amount that you did not receive will be available to you after your age of full retirement in your Social Security.
You're not really losing it. You're just not getting it during that period when you're still working.
You get it later. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, this roughly 8% a year is what gives people a reason to want to calculate what's most optimal for me to start collecting. Because the idea would be, of course, to maximize the amount of benefit you get from Social Security. If you just look at from a mathematical point of view, that guaranteed 8% growth off this base amount for waiting a full year between 62 all the way up to 70 is a pretty good return, right? It's hard to get a quote unquote guaranteed return of 8% growth on your money. And that's effectively what you are getting on your monthly Social Security income. Having said that, the math is very difficult for everyone to calculate because it ends up being highly subjective, mostly because what helps determine, in fact, you might say almost what is determinant in the answer as to when it's best to start collecting is all about how long you live, right? Because the challenge is, do I want more smaller monthly checks by starting early, or do I want fewer bigger checks by delaying to some future date, be it 65, 66, 67, 8, 9, 70, right? And so there's a point at which having fewer larger checks is more advantageous than having more smaller checks. But there are two big things that are in that. One is, but did I live long enough to reach that break-even point? And the other is, what kind of growth am I earning on this money that I have gotten earlier versus having waited later?
Okay, so I have a question about
Makes
that.
sense? Yep.
I think so. So say I take this money now at 62 and I don't need it, and I just start throwing it into a savings account.
Okay.
To earn interest, whether it's, I don't know, well, whatever savings account I throw it into. Is that better? to do that?
In that particular example, probably not, because even the highest earning savings accounts, high yield savings accounts, or even a certificate of deposit are going to earn maybe 4%. So that compared to that 8% growth you're giving up means you're negative, right?
Got it. So in a sense, if it stays in there, it's like a savings account. If it stays in Social Security,
Yeah,
it's a savings account earning
that's a way to think of it. Yeah, that is a way to think of it for sure. Yeah, you said you had another question, and then because I wanted to add something on too. But did you have another question?
Well, my other question about that is so I say I don't take it and I wait till 67 and it's earning 8%. This is the part I'm a little confused about. It's earning 8% a month?
No, it is growing by 8%. The base amount is growing 8%. Once you start receiving it, the 8% growth stops, and the only increase in the monthly amount you're going to get going forward is whatever cost of living adjustment is added on to all Social Security recipients.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I think I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that people are increasingly asking questions about, rightfully so, I think, is so I had made a decision about when to start based on everything pre-Trump. Now, with all that's going on at the Social Security Administration and the concern for the Social Security Trust Fund running out of its surplus by now, some projections have it as early as 2032. Does it make more sense for me to start early for two reasons? One, because then I'm in the system, so I may be grandfathered. And two, if there's a wholesale reduction in benefits, which if nothing is done to replenish the trust fund, the projections I've seen indicate that a typical benefit would be reduced by in the neighborhood of 22%. So if you're getting $100, you're going to get 78, maybe 80. And that would be across the board. So if that happens, am I not further ahead to start now for both of those reasons? Because I'm already in the system and I might as well get what I can get while I can get it.
Right. Okay. So, and then there's the idea of, tell me if this makes sense. If I take that money now and I take 20% and sock that away to plan for that reduction in benefits, is that a smart thing to do?
Why are you laughing?
Because it just I don't know. It just sounded like a weird question in my head.
Is it a smart thing to do? Let me answer a little more generally.
Mm-hmm.
If one can afford to not spend all of the benefit amount that you're receiving and invest it, ideally in something that is hopefully going to earn something better than 8% a year, that would be a smart thing to do.
Right. Yeah. I imagine there are a lot of people in my position who don't understand it as clearly as they should, and also concerned, like what you were just talking about Social Security having to cut benefits just to stay available for all recipients. Yeah. And so I think it would be beneficial to understand, okay, if I take it now, how do I plan for that possible moment in the future?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes. And that's part of a broader retirement planning discussion, I think, that people would want to have just based on their overall unique financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
Much of the country, I've seen statistics in the neighborhood of 40% plus of retirees are almost entirely dependent on their Social Security income, meaning there are no other sources available to them. So that would suggest first of all, there's a train wreck coming down the road. And two, yes, whatever people cannot spend right now and save would be great. And that's, for many retirees, ridiculously difficult to do.
Right. I remember, when my mother retired, well, you were there. I mean, all of her money, because she had the stroke and was living in assisted living, all of her money, she couldn't save anything. They took everything.
Yes. And she had an additional challenge in there, which is Medicaid, which is
Right.
a whole nother layer of complexity. But at its simplest, it's for those who do not otherwise have income sufficient for their expenses. She had medical expense far and above what she was able to afford.
Right.
And that the facility taking her taking her Social Security as payment for the facility was the only thing available to her. And Medicaid, in that case, topped off her Social Security check proceeds so that the facility had the income that it needed to be continuing their ability to offer her a room.
Yeah. I mean, she was very lucky that all that happened in Oregon, I think, because Oregon has an amazing system for helping people in that situation.
Yes.
And they did at
Oregon
the time.
I hope they still do. Gosh, I mean, Oregon also has, relatively speaking, more facilities than some states, California in particular, beds available for Medicaid patients that are in facilities that people would not just be really upset to be in, right? I mean, your mom was in a facility that was largely, I think, Medicaid, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
They did a good job. It wasn't the newest facility, but they did a really good job.
Since we're talking about Medicaid, Medicare is part of retirement, and that happens at 65?
Right. Yeah. So there's Social Security and then there's Medicare. And Social Security, you have more flexibility in choosing when you start it. Medicare is essentially an automatic, not quite, but close, automatic conversion of your health insurance, except for situations in which you or through your spouse have access to other health insurance.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. If we have health insurance, that means we can't take Medicare? Or did I misunderstand that?
No, you can take Medicare. In fact, well, it gets complicated.
Of course.
Everyone needs to sign up for Medicare. There's an alphabet of Medicare. And not to go too far into the alphabet soup, Medicare A and B are the ones most people are familiar with. And A is hospitalization and B is other medical care. And everyone ought to sign up for A. It's automatic and it costs most everyone nothing. Right? So that gets you on the list. Medicare B is not free. It's, what is it this year? $180, $170 a month. And you, with other coverage, can elect to defer enrollment in B, but one needs to be very careful about how you do that, because otherwise you end up with a permanent penalty rate when you do finally start B, when you lose your group insurance through whatever other employer plan you're in. So you can, and what's generally recommended is you have both, but your employer coverage through your own work or your spouse's work is considered primary, and then your Medicare coverage is considered secondary, sitting behind your primary health insurance. So A is, you ought to just do it. B, if you're not going to elect it, you need to make sure that the health insurance you have fits the definition of what is allowed to make you able to not start B And then there are also other coverages that have to do with prescription drug coverage, supplemental plans, advantage plans. Those can wait so long as you have your primary coverage within certain categories fitting the definition of primary health insurance through an employer or through your spouse. Did I complicate that enough, or did that kind of make sense?
It kind of makes sense. So let me see if I can clarify a couple things. Medicare A, 65, at 65. You cannot take Medicare A before that.
For today, we'll say yes. There are some exceptions for disabilities, but yes.
Okay. And for B, you can take that at 65 or after, depending on your, if you still have primary insurance through a spouse or a job or something.
Yes.
And if you don't have that, you should seriously consider taking it if you can afford.
No, you absolutely must. If you
you
don't
must
have
take
that,
B.
then you've got to take B. Yeah.
Okay. And so that $180, that comes out of your Social Security
Correct.
for B.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not free, but it's automatically taken out of your Social Security.
It is automatically taken out so long as you've started Social Security, right? You may have elected to not start Social Security, right?
Right.
And you need to have another means in place, another method in place for making your payments.
They don't wait, and I guess that would be kind of cruel, right? To take it all out at once when you decide to retire. That could be a bit much. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about then the next level of being married. There is a spousal benefit versus your benefit. Can you explain that?
Yes.
Is that the right way to ask that question?
Yeah. Yes. Spouses are entitled to the higher of their own benefit or the spousal benefit, as defined being 50% of your spouse's primary insurance amount, PIA. And that's yet a different defined term that for today's discussion, for all intents and purposes, it's almost identical to the FRA, full retirement age amount. Not exactly, but how this number gets calculated is also where people's eyes kind of roll back, and that is your primary insurance amount. What you're entitled to for Social Security is based off of your 35 years of highest earning reported taxable income and therefore payments into the system that is on file with the Social Security Administration. So if people aren't sure or want to confirm that all that information is in there correctly, they ought to go to ssa.gov and double check that their file is accurate. But that file is what is used 35 highest earning years. So if you only have 25, that means you have 10 years of zero. It doesn't just mean they adjust the calculation. They still use 30, but you have 10 years of zero. So that's why it's almost always a benefit to continue working to plug up those zeros, because that's going to really improve your ultimate benefit amount. But as a spouse, you are able to then take the higher of. In fact, Social Security Administration now automatically, so they say, I haven't seen this in practice. My understanding is they automatically calculate when a spouse either spouse starts their coverage, they are running a calculation, a number of calculations, checks. One of them is their own Social Security benefit amount equal to, higher than, or less than the spousal benefit amount, and they will then start you at whichever is the higher number.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. So if you're, for example, if you're getting $2,000 a month, and Social Security says, oh, you'll get $1,000 a month, I would get 50%. No, it would be equal.
It'd be
if
equal.
you're
Yeah.
if you're getting $3,000 a month, let's do it that way. If you're getting $3,000 a month and I'm getting $1,000 a month, that's what they say I would get if I sign up for Social Security. But if I get 50% of my spouse, and that equals 1,500, that's the benefit that I would get, is the 1,500, because that's
Right.
higher than the 1,000
It's part of your own record.
that's
Yep.
part of my own record. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I had another question about that popped in my head. Now I can't remember what it is.
Well, and that's one of the benefits that, it's one of the issues around this entire marriage equality battle that we all thought was won, that maybe is about to be thrown into reverse, right? From what we were talking about earlier, it seems as though that right to a spousal benefit is protected
Through the
through
marriage,
federal legislation.
through the Marriage Respect for Marriage Act.
That is correct. Yeah. And that's a big deal, right? Because there could be very different benefit numbers, and losing that could make or break some people's personal financial situation. And then at the death of one spouse, there is a calculation, and a spouse is entitled to the higher of their own benefit or their spouse's benefit, not 50%, 100%. So they don't get both. They don't get a double dip, but they get the higher of.
So if you were taking 3,000 and I'm getting now the 1,500 because I'm getting 50% of your benefit, and then you pass away, I would then get 3,000.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
You
Okay.
making a note of that?
Yeah, I'm writing that down right now.
Right.
Okay, so thank God for the Respect for Marriage Act then, because
Right,
that
well,
protects
and-
us.
My understanding is it does. Yeah. I mean, my goodness. Well, we won't get too political here, right? But just because a law is a law, it doesn't seem to mean a whole heck of a lot at the moment. But yeah, that's my understanding of how it works. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so then, but that doesn't work. That's only if you're married, right? If you're living with someone
That's
for
right.
20 years, or you're like, there's a
Common law.
common law marriage. Is
Mhm.
that a thing? Is that a thing with Social Security?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Oh, I did have there was a question that popped up earlier in my brain about, you said something about continuing to work so I've taken my Social Security and I'm continuing to work. Am I still paying into Social Security?
Yep,
So how does
you are.
that work? Or does
And each year, Social Security recalculates your benefit amount.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if that
Okay.
year of earnings if that year of earnings is higher than one of the 35 years currently used for your calculation, it will replace the lowest number of those 35 and be part of the revised calculation going forward.
And it does that every year. So there's no real penalty to working after you retire, other than you may be getting less, but then that's given back to you at full retirement.
Correct. And so I try, when I'm working with people, make sure we're all clear on the words we're using, because you're saying after I retire, still working.
Right.
Which
Okay. So retire
in
is
my
not
head means not retired.
right.
So if you choose to take Social Security earlier than your age of full retirement, there is a penalty, as I said, that goes away once you reach your age of full retirement, and you can continue to work as long as you want without further penalty with respect to your Social Security amount.
Right. That's kind of what. Yeah. There's no real penalty. There's a
In the
penalty
moment-
while you're working,
Right.
but
Before
once you
your full retirement age.
right,
right.
once you're full retirement age, you get that back, that penalty back.
Correct. That is absolutely true. And
Okay.
you have the added potential benefit of even increasing your benefit amount more because you've replaced one of your lower 35 years that was previously in the calculation.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say lower of the 35 years, you're not talking like they don't go years in date order. They go by lowest year. So if your lowest year was 3 years ago, that's the year they would replace?
Again, getting in a little into the weeds, but
Okay.
to answer the question, they do take them in your earnings in date order, but they inflation adjust, they index all the years earlier than your 60th birthday. They index, they inflation adjust all those years. So basically, you're looking at all, the same with respect to inflation adjustments.
Okay.
Does that make?
Yeah, this has
So-
been really helpful. I understand it much more now. It makes a lot more sense. Very,
Good.
very well done, Derek. It's like you know what you're talking about. It's crazy.
There's an incredible amount of detail in this stuff. I am not know plenty to be able to navigate the Social Security website and to answer basic questions, but there are very sophisticated calculators out there, and there are people who do nothing but Social Security benefit calculations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all well and good, but I keep coming back to that's only part of the answer. Then there's the, how long am I going to live issue. And we're putting aside for a moment will the benefits even be there in 2032, and if so, at what level? But
Right.
when one expects to die factors hugely into this calculation. And the reality is that somebody born around 1960, a male born, well, female is about 3 years out more, but a male born around 1960 could expect to live somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 years, 76 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bell curve, right? So that's
Right.
just a mathematical average. But if one adds on then the potential health challenges of living with HIV, for example, for a long period of time,
Mm-hmm.
you have to figure out, weigh that against then a lot of queers take disproportionately good care of themselves, at least from an appearance standpoint, right? If not
Right.
from a cardiovascular. Then you begin to wonder, wow, if it's going to take me to roughly age 80, and that's a very rough average, to break even, if I choose to start early versus Social Security late, and my life expectancy is 75 on average, maybe 80 if I'm lucky kind of thing, it suddenly maybe doesn't matter if I have the most sophisticated mathematical modeling available to me to calculate the point at which I absolutely would be optimized to start Social Security. So the math kind of says, maybe starting now, which is totally counter to what is mostly written out there, maybe starting sooner rather than later is not such a bad thing.
So
Crazy, huh?
Okay, so I'm living with HIV, though I take care of myself physically. I don't have any major health issues other than HIV. My life expectancy, because I'm male, is 75 to 78.
75.8 or something like that. Call it 76. Yeah.
Okay. And so what is it? So taking it now, there's what is it called? The midway point, or the point where it evens out?
Break even?
The break-even
Break
point
even.
for me would be around
Crossover. Break. Yeah.
around that age.
Around 80.
Around 80.
Yeah.
Okay. And that break-even
Yeah.
point means what?
That's going back to our earlier discussion. That's the point at which you would be further ahead to have waited to get fewer larger checks than more smaller checks.
Got it. Okay.
And the math is a little different, just to really confuse things, but just for the geeks listening, know that I see you. Um, but the math is a little different. 62 to 67, if 67 is your FRA, from 67 to 70. And then the math is again a little different from 62 all the way to 70. Those are three different decisions. They all have slightly different break-even points or crossover points, but they are all within 2 years of 80, more or less. So that's why I use 80. It's kind of easy to remember. It's right down the middle.
Well, this conversation has actually helped me a lot. I think I've already made my decision. So,
okay.
Awesome.
Well, I'll see you later.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. It's been really great.
Yeah.
We should take a moment to plug your new website, DerekLenington.com, DerekLenington.com, where you can go and sign up for Derek's newsletter. You can send him an email to contact information if you want to work with him. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
It's been a very difficult birth, as you well know.
But it's beautiful.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you, and I mean that literally. I couldn't have done that without you. And it's also a first pass. So I'm kind of getting my sea legs again, having let go of my financial planning practice a few years back. I am very excited about opportunities that kind of moving more in the coaching direction might offer me down the road, particularly as it relates to workshops and opportunity ultimately maybe to do some public speaking in addition to coaching individuals and couples. Through all this coaching journey that started with COVID, actually, that's how I had the time to do it. Initially with my initial life coaching certifications and training, I discovered I work best with people who excel at helping others and are very negligent when it comes to taking care of themselves, either with transitions that they ought to be thinking about or transitions that just hit them in the head, like, financial change, health scare, marital status, that kind of stuff. And so the coaching I do works with the issues surrounding the transition itself, the financial implications. Along this journey, I also discovered I am what is called an HSP. I have high sensory processing, which makes me both very attuned in an extreme to people's verbal and nonverbal cues. And it also makes me appreciate, by virtue of experience, the challenges people have in setting boundaries and putting their needs in some sort of prioritization order with everything else going on in their lives. So, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to add, or should we wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I think I would just say, from a retirement standpoint, Social Security is absolutely a critical component for the vast majority of people, but it is only one leg of hopefully a multi-leg tripod minimum plan. So there's calculating, which is easy for people to get wrapped up in because they feel like, at least it's mathematically there's an answer. But there's so much more to it. Our identities get wrapped up in our careers. What looks to be a wonderful opportunity to have time to pursue what was previously just a part-time pursuit can sometimes turn into challenging decisions with respect to partners and geographic relocations. What to do with your other investments, if you're fortunate enough to have them, is also part of the discussion. And further down the line, because everyone's focused on retire, is end-of-life planning. And just, if you haven't focused on it yet, and you and I talk about this, right? This is the cobbler whose children run around without shoes because he's too busy making the shoes for everybody else. right? I mean, there's
Right.
some serious planning that needs to get done, and it doesn't mean it has to be serious, but it is important stuff. So there's more to it than just the Social Security answer.
Sure. Well, it's one of those things that we all know is important to do, right? But life happens. And, a year later, we're like, shit, we need to do that.
Yeah, that's why you go out and you hire someone, and then they can keep you accountable for getting it done. And
Yeah.
they can help you make sure you tick all the boxes too. Yeah.
Well, again, if that's the person you're looking for, DerekLenington.com, go and send him your
Have you said that
information
yet?
if you want to have this conversation.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, David. And I wish you a wonderful wrap up of season 1 and an excellent start to season 2.
Yeah, this was a great finish to season 1. No.
Talk to you later, David.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave a review. To keep the conversation going, you can find me on Blue Sky, YouTube, and Substack at David Begor. I'm David Begor. Until next time, be bold, be free, be you. This has been A Queer Point of View. Friends, loves, and life.